Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be making this black beauty. I'll be teaching you how to make these buckets beaded bag. You can also call it dice bag. Here are the instruments I'll be using: my fish line, cutter, and bead. This is pear bead. I'll start by putting four beads on the fish line. You can put it in either of the fish line. Put three and cross over with the fourth one. You have something like this. Then on this line, I'll be adding three beads, one on each line, then cross over with one on each line, cross over with the third one, that is making it the third bead. You have something like this. I'll be adding one on each line also and cross over with the third one. It's now three flower. Then for the fourth one, I'll be adding one on each line. Watch carefully and see what I'm about to do. Add one on each line, cross over with this first bead. You can fold it like this while crossing over. Cross the two lines on that particular bead. You have something like this, like a cube. Next, I started by adding three beads. I added it on one line, that is add two and cross over with the third one. This is how you do in each starter. Next, on this line, I'll cross over one bead. See what I mean by crossing over? Is on this other line, I add two beads. That is one and cross over with the second one. On this other line again, I'll cross over by one bead. On the other line, I'll add two beads. One and cross over by one. Then for the last bead, you have something like this. So you use this fish line, cross over with this bead and also this bead. Here I'll be adding one. That is crossing over with that particular one I'm adding. You have something like this. We'll start again. On the starter, you add three beads. Add two, cross over by the last one. On the other line, you cross over by one bead. You see the bead. On this line, you add two beads. that is 1 and cross over by 1. We are doing it as if it's round. Cross over by 1 bead. On the other line you add 2 beads. On the last one you cross over by these 2 beads like you did it before, and add 1 bead. Each of the surface, when you have done with it, each of the surface is meant to have 4 beads. Hope you can see it. On the starter I add 3 beads. On that line add 2 and cross over with the third one. On the other line I cross over by 1 bead. On this line I add 2 beads. 2 beads. Add 1 and cross over by the last one. With the other line you cross over by 1 bead. On this other line you add 2 beads. Add 1 and cross over with the last one. On this one you cross over by these 2 beads. When you cross over it becomes 3 beads. The only bead needed there will be only 1 to complete it 4. Yeah, you add 4. You add the 1 bead. You have something like this. Everything is supposed to be 4. Each surface is supposed to be 4. So this is how you are going to do it till you reach to your desired length. Here I'll be making 8. So let's do the last one. Add 3 beads, cross over with the other line. On the other line you cross over by 1 bead. Add 2 beads on this line. On this line you cross over by 1 bead. On this other one you add 2 beads. That is 1 and cross over by the last one. So on this line you cross over by these 2 beads. The first one and the second one. You add 1 bead. Cross your both lines by that 1 bead. So now I've reached to my desired length. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I will start another row with these 4 beads that I touch. So on this line I'll add 3 beads. You cross over by the last bead. on this line you cross this bead. If you can see it, and make use of these 4 beads that is facing this side. On this line I add 2 beads. Cross over by the last bead. With the other line, on this line I cross over this 3rd bead. My crossing over is round the bead, round the 4 beads. On this line I add 2 beads. So for the last one, I cross over by these 2 beads. The first one and the second one. Then I add 1 bead. I cross over my 2 lines by 1 bead. This is how I'm going to do it till I reach my desired length also. I start again by 3 beads, add 2 and cross over with the last one, the 3rd one. I have something like this. On this line you cross over this other line, you add 2 beads. On this line cross over. On the other line you add 2 beads. With this line you cross over by these 2 beads, 1 and the second one, and add 1 bead. This is the base. I'm making the base, that is the foundation of the bag. I want both the length and everything to be 8 so I've made 8 8. Then the one that is half is 7. I have 6 on this other line, have 1, so I'll be making the 8th one. I will use the 8th one to close it. So on this line I add 1 bead. Then I cross over with this edge bead. You have something like this, and add 1 bead. That is, cross the 2 lines with that bead. On each line I cross over by 1 bead. Cross over the other line by 1 bead and add 1 bead. Each line I cross over by 1 bead. On this other line I cross over by 1 bead also and add 1 bead. This is how I'm going to do it till I secure everything. You see, it's now closed. So let me add the last one. This one is hidden. Cross over by one bead. Here you cross your two lines on the edge bead, that is the last bead. Here you will not be adding the one bead, you will cross over with the bead that is present there. Then you secure your line to avoid losing. This is how it's looking like after securing. So I start again by closing the bottom of the bag. Look what I'm doing. I cross over by one bead and cross the other bead also. So my lines are in two beads now. Hope you can see it. These two beads. So on this line, I'll add two beads. That is, add one and cross over by one. We are closing the bottom. On this line, I cross over by one bead. Watch closely. Cross over by this bead. On the other line, I add two beads. On this line, I cross over by one bead. On the other line, I add two beads. This is how you are going to do it till you close the whole foundation. Cross over by one bead with the inner line. On the outside line, you add two beads till you reach the edge. I will show you how you close the edge. On the inner line, you cross over by one bead. On the outside line, you add two beads. So when you have reached the edge, on the inner line, you cross over by these two beads. These two beads. This is the first one. And the second one. Here you add one bead. On this line, you cross over by this bead. Under the same line is now outside line. You add your 2 beads under the same line. You continue. On the inner line, you cross over by 1 bead. The outside line, you add 2 beads. This is how you are going to do it till you reach the last row. With the inner line, you cross over by 1 bead. Outside line, you add 2 beads. Inner line, you cross over by 1 bead. Outside line, you add 2 beads. On the edge, you cross over by this bead and this other bead. Then you add 1 bead, that is cross over the 2 lines by 1. So let's close the last one. You need to cross these 2 beads. Your fishing line needs to be on 3 beads. Cross by this line, cross by the other line also. You add 1 bead. With each line, you cross by 1 bead with each line. Cross this line, cross this other line, and add 1 bead. With each line, you cross by 1 bead. Cross this line, cross the other line, and add 1 bead. This is how you are going to do it till everything close. On each line, you cross by 1 bead, then you add 1 bead. So this is the final one. You cross each line by 1 bead, you add one bead. Then you secure your lines. Here I want ahead and cross the second line by one bead and tie. So this is how it's looking like. So strong and firm. So we'll start with the pillars. We need 4 pillars. So I'll be making use of these 4 that I touched now. Let's raise the first pillar. Cross your line on one bead. Add 3 beads on one line, that is 2, and cross over with the third one. You have something like this. Then on the other line, you cross over by, and this line you cross over by this other bead. Remember, we are making use of this particular 4 beads that is at the edge. On this other line, you add 2 beads. Add one and cross over with the last one. With the other line, you cross over with the third bead. We are going round, round, round. And this other line, you add 2 beads. For the last one, you cross over by 2 beads, this and this. It's the same method that we used at the initial time. Nothing changed. You add 1 bead. You cross your both line with that 1 bead. You see how it's looking like. On this line, you add 3 beads for the beginning. You cross over by the last bead with the other line. Then on this line, you cross over this 1 bead. On this outside line, you add 2 beads. This is how you are going to do it till you reach your desired length of pillar. On this also inner line, you cross by 1 bead. The outside one, you add 2 beads. For the last opening, you use this line across the 2 beads and add one bead. Remember, I made my foundation 8 by 8, but the pillar I'll be making it 9. This is how you are going to do it. Well, I've already done 2 plus the foundation, that is 2. Now I have the 9, starting from the bottom. So let's raise another pillar. I'll make use of this 4. That is how you are going to do it. You raise the whole 4 pillars. I add my 3 beads on one line and cross over with the other line. With this other line, I cross over by 1 bead. The outside line, I add 2 beads. 2 beads. With the inner line, I cross over by 1 bead. Remember, we are making use of the 4 edge beads. We are going round the beads. We have done the first one. So on this line, we add 3 beads. For starting, 3 beads. Cross over by the last bead. With this line, you cross over by 1 bead. On the outside line, you add 2 beads. Any format that you use to do the foundation, that is the format you are going to use all through. It's almost the same thing that we are repeating. Add 3 beads, then add 2 beads, and close it with the last 1 bead. So I'm trying to make this pillar to be on the same height with the other one. Remember, I'm making my pillars to be nine flower beads. So let me go and do it and come back. So I've done the two. So let me go and do the last two and come back. It's now 3. Let me do the last one. Here my lines are now short and I'm ending the lines here. So I will show you how I end my lines. This is the last bit I'm adding. Instead of crossing over, I tie it. After tying, I make sure I hide my knots. Then put the remaining lines in the beads. So I'm through with the 4 pillars. I'm through with the 4 of them. So here it's remaining to close to join the pillars. So I'll be making use of these 4. I'll be making use of these 4 and 4. So I start with putting my line. On this line I'll be adding 3 beads, cross over by the last bead, and this line I cross over with by 1 bead. Remember the 4 beads that I'm making use of is the edge one. On the other line I add 2 beads. I'm sorry that you cannot see it very well here. It's the same thing that we did on the previous ones. Okay. With this other line, we cross by 1 bead. We are going round, round, round. On the other line, you add 2 beads. So for the last one, you cross by 2 beads. Cross the other line by 2 beads. This and this. Then you add 1 bead. So then we'll start another one by adding 3 beads. Cross over with the other line and add 2 beads on the other line. cross over the last one, then on the other line you cross over by one bead. On the outside line you add two beads. For the last one you cross over by the two beads, and add one bead. It's assumed that the pillars are one flower beads, so what we need in the middle is 6 to complete it. So I've made 5, so let me use the 6th one to attach on the last one. From the edge it will be 7. I add one bead and cross over by one bead. Then here I'll be crossing over by one bead again. This is how you attach it. Then with your 2 lines you cross over by one bead. With this other line you cross over by one bead also. And add one bead. It's not really clear here, but I will still show you the process again. With each line you cross over by one bead. Remember we are going through these 4 beads on the edge. Then add one bead. Then you secure your beads and make sure they are secure. Make sure your beads are secure. Let me do the other ones and come back. I'll still show you. I've done the other ones, so let me show you the procedure again. I add one bead, cross over with this bead, then add another bead. On each line I cross over by one bead, cross over the other one also by one bead, then add one bead. Hope it's clear now. This is how you are going to do it round that particular 4 beads. On each line I cross over by one bead, round that particular 4 edge bead, and add one bead. Then you secure your line. How I'm securing my line is to go through the 4 round bead. then tie. So now I'm trying to put my handle. I'll be making use of chain. You can make use of chain or normal bag handle. You can put the two at a time. So this is the final look. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Please share the video to your loved ones. If you find this tutorial helpful, help me and share. Thank you.